about their faith. So we invite Rielly to come up, and as soon as I get the projector on Rielly, we're going to go.
Towards the end of my confirmation process, everybody in my class had to choose a verse from the Bible that interested or resonated with them. I chose Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, which reads, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." This verse comes from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, one of his most famous and widely quoted lectures. It takes place early in the ministry of Jesus, after he has been baptized by John the Baptist. This verse interested me for several reasons. Initially, I liked Matthew 5:44 because it is not very long, and since we each had to memorize our verses, this was an important consideration. But as I thought about it more carefully, I realized how intriguing the verse actually is. When you first read it, it seems completely impracticable. It is a lovely sentiment, but it seems impossible to live by. How could you love your enemies? How could Jesus tell you to? It doesn't make sense to be asked to love people who have wronged you. But there is another way this verse can be regarded. Instead of an order to do something infeasible, it can be viewed as a realistic warning against taking revenge. For people, it can be easy to get absorbed in a cycle of revenge. It's human nature. People who are mistreated can seethe in hatred and loathing for a long time. There is a general mindset that I deserve revenge, or at least justice for what has been done to me. This inclination can not only consume a person, but an entire community or even a society. Jesus did not teach revenge or justice. He taught mercy. I think love your enemies is conveying the conception that you should try to have an attitude of forgiveness and mercy instead of getting caught up in thoughts of revenge and revulsion. This is supported by other verses in the Sermon on the Mount that have similar ideas. For example, Matthew 5:40 states that if the law requires you to give someone your coat, give your cloak as well. And Matthew 5:41 states that if someone compels you to go 1 mile, go 2. These verses ask readers to do more and have a positive attitude towards situations that seem inauspicious or unfavorable. Both verses have a rationale that surrounds the belief that having a positive attitude towards events or situations can be better than a negative attitude. In Matthew 5:44, the positive attitude can be specified to forgiveness and clemency. In Matthew 5:40 and 5:41, the attitude can be specified to being sanguine. All three of these verses seem simple, but are in fact more intricate than you would think. In confirmation class, I learned you can't just read a verse from the Bible and think you understand it. You need to think about it and research it to get its true meaning. Matthew 5:44 is short and simple, but the idea it conveys is deep and complex. I'm glad I learned it. I would like to thank my parents, the pastor, and the confirmation teachers for helping me through the confirmation process. Thank you.